I'm in InDesign and we are going to work on completing stage 2 from the textbook for Against the Clock on Project 2 Festival poster. So in stage 1 we've completed the letter size poster. It looks like this right now. In the last stage we created the clipping path. We added this raster image inside the path. We also created a gradient and also reversed the gradient in the border and placed a raster image inside of this gradient, creating a multiply effect, and then added a QR code with a border around it and a drop shadow for the clipping path. And then we're going to pick up on stage 2 in your textbook. It's page 114 for the 2020 version. The first thing I want to do is open up my layers panel so we can see the layers that we have. If you click on that expand arrow next to layer 1, then you can see all the layers that we have on layer 1. So we locked down and hid the rectangle, but we can see the QR code and then the two raster images for the guitar image. Double click on layer 1, and what we're going to do is just rename this from layer 1 and call it graphics, so that we know that on this layer all of our graphics are on this layer. And then we can click on the space between the I and the name of the layer to lock that down, so now I cannot accidentally, if I'm in my selection tool, select any of my graphics since they are locked down. Then I can collapse the graphics layer and we're going to create a new layer for our text. So now we want to add the text for our venue onto another layer. So I'm going to click the Create New Layer button, and that adds the color red to layer 2. If I'm going to double click on layer 2 to rename that. So it helps to rename these layers so that you know what is on each layer. So for layer 2, we can add our text to it. And so we can just simply call this layer text. And you can expand that layer so that you can see what's going to be added to that layer. So now I want to create some text frames using the type tool. So using this toolbar on the left, and I want to create a text frame to fill from the left of the page margin to the right of that page margin. So I'm just going to create drag all the way from the left to the right to create a layer. And now you can see I've got a text frame here in the text layer. And I'm going to use my selection tool to format this frame or bounding box, because you can see when you see these handlebars on the corners and in the center here, that is the bounding box. And then we can use the control panel up at the top to specify our measurements. You can also use the properties panel in your docked panels. So I want to create, I want to place this frame at exactly 0.25 and 0.25 on the XY axis. And then for the width, I want the width to be 10.5, and then I want the height to be 0.625. So you can just type that in, 0.625, and then hit return. Make sure you're in inches. So that's my first frame. This is where the title or the headline of my event is going to be. Then I'm going to create a second frame, and to do that you can just use the same method in the type tool and drag and drop again. What I'm going to do is just duplicate this frame by holding down the Option key and then dragging to duplicate the first frame. Then I'm going to use my coordinates again to control the size and the placement of it. So for the second frame, the X coordinate should read 5.75. And hit tab. The Y coordinate is 1.5. Width is actually 5. And then the height is 4.25. So that places this bounding box or text frame right up the right side on top of my graphic, and I'm going to place text in there. And you can see the bounding box is red because I'm on the red layer. Then I'm going to do the same thing in Option drag to clone this again. And this time I'm going to use my properties panel and type in 4.5 for the X coordinate, 7.9 for the Y coordinate, 6.25 for width and 0.35 for the height. So that's just going to create a text frame down at the bottom here. And that's where my website is going to go. Go back to the type tool or just hit the letter T on your keyboard and click inside the first text frame to place your cursor inside that frame. And we are going to place a text file. So go to File, Place, and navigate to your Against the Clock folder for the poster or concert. And then look for the text file called Festival Text. And make sure Replace Selected Item is checked and click Open, and that places the text into that first text frame. The next thing we want to do is link this text frame to the next text frame and then link this one to the last text frame so that the text will flow into these frames. This is really helpful when you have a lot of text, especially working with books, for example, that you can link all your text frames so that the text will flow into the entire document. So in this case, we're just going to link 3 text frames. Go back to your selection tool or the letter V for the shortcut, and you'll see, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see better, on the right side of that bounding box you can see an outport where there is a square with a plus sign on it. Click on that and then you'll see any overset text that doesn't fit in this frame loaded onto the cursor. Then I can click into the next frame, and that's going to link the 2 frames so that any text that doesn't fit in the first frame is going to flow into the second frame. To see that better, we can go to View, Extras, and select Show Text Threads so that you can see those threads. This is not going to show up in the print, but it's just showing up in InDesign so you can see how the frames are linked or threaded. So this one is linked to this one. The next thing we want to do is link this frame to the last one. So I'm going to zoom in again, and then I'm going to click on this outport. You can see that overset text is loaded on there again, and then click on the 3rd frame. And now the second text frame is linked or threaded to the last one. Now if you don't want to see those threads, you can just hide it again. You can go to View, Extras, and select Hide Text Threads. You can go ahead and save your file at this point so you don't lose your changes, and go back to the type tool and click after the word festival in that first frame. Put your cursor after the word festival, then go up to the type menu and select Show Hidden Characters. You can now see all your paragraph returns. Again, this is just visible to you. It won't show up in the print. You can always hide that again. But what we want to do is select that paragraph return and insert a frame break. So go back up to the type menu and go to Insert Break Character and then select Frame Break. And then that's going to create a break so that everything after what you had selected is going to move into the next frame. I'm going to zoom in here to the 2nd frame and go back to layers, and I am going to hide my graphics layer so that I can see I don't have the graphics distracting me from the text. I just want to work on the text right now. Put your cursor now at the beginning of the 2nd frame, and if you have an extra space here you can just hit delete. If you have an extra paragraph return like this, you can just delete that. Now you want to highlight the paragraph return character at the end of the next to last sentence. So right here, we want to move this URL address into the last frame. So go back to Type, Insert Break Character, and select Frame Break again. And then that's going to move that last line into the last text frame. Read over about more character formatting on page 121 in your textbook. Just goes over what a font or glyph is. If you have your typography workspace open and click on glyph, you can see all the glyphs or characters within a font. So that includes not only the letters but the numbers and symbols, and also dingbats and accent marks. So that's an easy way to find a character or glyph within a font. If you ever need to, you can just select it by double clicking on it. We can also explore more under character and see where the vertical and horizontal scale is, the leading and kerning, which you've already learned about from the typography exercise. There's also baseline shift if you ever want to move your text over the baseline. Remember, one of our 10 commandments of typography is to keep your letters on the baseline. So if you're going to move it off, you need to have a good reason to do that to break the rule. And then you also have a skew, so if you don't have an italic font for a typeface, you can use the skew method. Go back to your type tool or select the letter T on your keyboard. So we want to change the font for our title in the first frame. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see that better. Use your type tool to triple click and select that entire line, and then in the character panel, and if you don't see that, go to Window, type in Tables, and select Character, and just type in ATCO to select the ATC Onyx Bold. So let me highlight that again and select ATCO to select ATC Onyx Bold. So ATC Onyx is our typeface family, and Bold is the font style within that family. Then you want to choose the font size, and we're going to select, so that went back to normal, so change that back to bold, and then I want to select 60 points. So this is the title, so I want it to be a large size. So when you do that, you'll see it's not fitting in that first frame anymore, so it's running into the next frame. But we're going to fix that by changing the horizontal scale to 80% instead of 100. So we're just condensing that. Now normally you don't want to mess with the scale of your letters again unless you have a really good reason. So for this title, since it's a title font, we wouldn't want to change the body text, but for the title it's a display type, so we're going to condense it a little bit to fit it as a condensed version of this font. The next thing we want to do is go to the Options menu under Character and select All Caps. And now the text is fitting in that frame. And then we're going to go to the next frame and select all of the text in that frame and change the font to ATC Onyx Normal. And set that to 20 points. And I'm just going to type that in. Then for the last frame, select the text for the website, and we're going to change that to ATC Garnet, Medium, and set that to 24 points. Now we're going to apply some paragraph formatting. So go to the Paragraph menu, and you can review the paragraph formatting options on page 124 in your textbook and also page 125. So you have a lot of different options to format the entire paragraph, and the paragraph would be whatever falls in between your two paragraph symbols. So in the second frame with the text, I have the paragraph panel open, and I'm going to change the space. I'm going to put my cursors in the first paragraph. I want to change the space after the field to 0.125. So find the space after the field option and select type in 0.125 or click on the up arrow 2 times. And what that does, it adds 1/8 of an inch space after this paragraph symbol so that there's extra space in between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. And what we have here in the center portion, there's a list of bands that are going to be performing at this festival. So you want to make sure that there's some space to segment the text from the first paragraph to this itemized list of band names. Then I'm going to select any part of the second through the 6 paragraphs, basically all the band names here, and click the down arrow in the space after field one time to add some space in between the band names. Then with these band names still selected, I'm going to change the left indent space to 0.3. So you can just type in 0.3, and that's going to indent my space for these band names. And then I'm going to put my cursor in the last paragraph with the band names and increase the space after that to 0.125, so this space in between the last band name and my last paragraph is consistent with the space in between my first paragraph and the first band. Now I can hide these paragraph returns and hidden characters. A shortcut to do that is you can hit Command Option I, and that will hide it, and you can also toggle it back on by those same commands. Go back to your Layers panel and then click on the empty space to the left of the graphics layer. So click on the eye, and then now you can see the graphics. We can also open up the graphics and show the black rectangle too. So what happens when we do that is we can't read the text. So we want to change the text color so that we can read it. So if you select the text for the title, go to your swatches, and remember that spot color with the metallic color we created. We're going to select that for the title of the event, then select the rest of the text, and then we're going to select a color for that text and select the paper or white color. And then for the last text frame with the website, we can also select the spot color. And then I can click W to hide my frames and guidelines. And now I can see all of my text, my title, the text with the band names, and then the website where I can find out more about this concert. That concludes stage 2. In stage 3, we're going to add some anchored objects or inline graphics as custom dingbats for these band name bullet points. I will see you back in stage 3.